Hello, my name is Jack Campbell and welcome to another How to Blender 3D tutorial. Today we'll be looking at the motion tracking and face tracking in Blender 2.63. This was added about, I'm not exactly sure how long, but around Blender 2.61. And as you can see, which the video is running kind of slow, but you can motion track in Blender. So there's a few tutorials out there on this, not very many, but I thought that I would do something more interesting. First of all, how I got inspired by this was by two things. The first one was the Boardwalk Empire visual effects breakdown. If you watch in this clip, in order for them to do this war wound, they had to motion track his face, and then they used the concept art to come up with this. And I thought that was quite interesting. And the other thing was the Voldemort's nose, how they did that throughout the Harry Potter movies. Fortunately, whenever I screen record, my computer goes terribly slow, so don't mind that. Okay, so I put together this video. As you can see, I did not remove the face trackers, but because I have a very difficult time doing that. But as you can see, I have this wound hole right there, and if I play this, you can see it tracks to, and my computer is going super slow. As you can see, it just tracks to my face, and then this is the original footage. There's the, I'll show you I'll put this video up on the website, on howtoblender3d.com, so that you could see it without it going slow. Well, if you look here, you can see that that is the actual object that I used to track to my face, which I then added the wound onto that, and you can see just how it looks. Okay, so let's open up Blender. Again, I'm using the version of Blender 2.63. Now, my default scene is a little different than yours. I have the Cycles render engine as default, but for now I'm just going to switch over to the Blender render. And I have the objects in a different place as well as no lighting. So, click on, down here, Movie Clip Editor. If you never use this, then this will be a new option. Then select Open here, and click on wherever you have your video. Unfortunately, I have to get my video out of my alias, which I believe is this. Okay. So, just load in your video. And as you can see, how I set this up is I placed tracking points on my face. I put 10. 3 on my left side of my face, or 3 on my left side of the face right here, 3 on this side, and then 4 on my nose. And I did this so that I could get the best looking and best possible track. But you can do it. You can place as many markers. The more that you have, the better. You'll just have to, if this is for a actual project, figure out a way to remove those markers from the footage if you're not covering them up with objects. Okay, so if you've never used the 3D tracking system in Blender, then this will explain everything. Also, if you've if you want to use it on, say, footage and adding objects into that footage, like sitting on a table, you can use these techniques. Just place the markers wherever they are in your scene. Okay, so the first thing, if I just collapse these, is marker. Now you have add marker and move, detect features, delete track, and tracking settings. First thing that we have to do is add the markers. But you have multiple options. First of all, if you bring down tracking settings, this may look kind of confusing. Now, first of all, leave this to how it is. You don't need to worry about that. Then you have RGB, or red, green, blue. You can just ignore those. And then you have pattern size and search size. So this depends on your track. For this one, for this particular one, since these markers are close together, I decided to use a smaller search size. Leave tracker how it is, and leave correlation and these two alone. Now for match, I found previous frame works much better than keyframe, but you should experiment and see which works for your scene. Okay, so so once that's set up, which I actually will change this to, I believe that I had mine set to 15. So once you have that in, you can click well, first of all, do not use detect features. Notice how it ignores all of these contrasted areas, all 9 of them, and it chose a white area of this one, and chooses weird areas to place markers. So I'm just going to delete all those. Now, add marker and move just adds a marker, and then you can move it with your mouse. Now, if you click here, you can look in the end toolbar, see where it is, but if you click G and then S, then you can move it slower and then place it where you want it. Now, that's good if you want to click and drag, or you can hold down Control and then left click, and it will place a marker. Now, before I start placing a ton of markers, I want to see if the search size is good. So that's quite small. I may turn that up to about 20. And then if I delete that, hold down Control and click, then you can see there's our search size. I just enabled that by clicking search, and that shows it. And it works very, very well if you have a smaller search size, because the first time I did this, I had a large set to 61, and it covered all 3 of these. So while it was tracking, this jumped to this one, and then that one, and it kept jumping around. So just have a smaller search size. By the way, search size means that this marker will search for these pixels in this area of space. And since I'm not moving too much, and the markers are close together, it's better to have a smaller search size. Okay, so now I'm just going to hold down Control, click on these other ones, and place markers. Now, the more markers you have, the better, and the more time you spend placing the markers is also the better. So I'm, however, only going to place these markers, because that's all that I want to track. I don't want to track my eyes or the rest of my face. I just need these. Okay, place this here. Okay, so I have 10 markers. Yes, 10 markers, and they're all set up. So now, to actually track them, because if you hit Alt A, they won't do anything. So have it at frame 1, hit A in case any are selected, and then hit A again, so then they're all selected. Then down here, which I should save this first because sometimes Blender crashes while tracking. Just call it, or really call it anything. I'm just gonna name it track 21. I usually just throw in numbers just in case I have other things named that, because I tend to name things the same name a lot. So I usually just throw in numbers. Okay. After you have all this selected, and you've saved it, down here under track, if you bring them down, you have these buttons. So if you click the forward button, or forward track button, you see that they all track. And if you let this go for however long your video is, which, by the way, you can just put this to however many frames your video is by scrubbing through. And then once it's finished, the markers will be tracked. Also, if you notice, you have this purpley bluish bar down here. So that is the cache frames bar. And see, also underneath you have this yellow line, which is the track bar. Okay, so I just noticed that my video ends about right here. So about it's 180 frames. So if I just set this to 180, then that'll be good. Also, set under render, which I usually do this earlier, just in case I forget. Save it. Find wherever, I always forget where, frame rate. Change it to whatever your video is. This one's 30 frames a second. Okay, so now, as you see, it has Alt-A tracked to my face, all of them, and it's a very good track. So on to the next part. You just hit escape and it'll go back to the beginning. So this yellow line, if you click on one, will show what frames it has tracked to the marker. And then this blue line will show the cached frames of the last that you played. So now, if you can just collapse track, you have solve. Now, you have camera motion, clear solution, keyframe A, and keyframe B. Now, keyframe A and keyframe B will be wherever there is a lot of motion. So, let's see, 150, 160, okay, my eyes look really weird for some reason in that. So 115 to 160, there's a lot of motion. So type in whatever area you have a lot of motion. Just put that in. So after you have, once you put that in, you don't need to track it or anything. And if you have any problems with the tracking marker, you don't change the tracking settings here. You go over here into the end toolbar and change them under tracking settings, and then click it, and that will be how you change it. Okay, so after you have solve, if you look down here, you have cleanup clip, and then this isn't part of it. But those are actually, we're not going to bother with those. I never do. But if you wanted to, you can look at those. Clip, actually I do use, but not until the very end. Okay, so now that you have all your trackers set up, you have to use the camera motion. However, you need to put in your camera data first. And what camera data is whatever the settings of your camera are. So what your sensor width is, your focal length, just put in your sensor width. However, mine is very difficult to find. I have a Sony HD Handycam CX550V, and I cannot find out what the settings are. So I'm going to start out by leaving it blank, and if you just hit camera motion, as you can see down here, it had a little bar that came over, and it stops at 99%, and then once it finishes, it says average solve error, and then a number. And you'll always have this. It's not a problem. If it's below 1, it means it's a good track. If it's below 0.5, it's a really good track. And this is a 0.1026. So that means it's a pretty good track. Now, that's just with the default. If you have one of the cameras that are listed on here, so if you have a Canon 600D or a Nikon, any of those, or a Sony A55, then you can just click those and it will automatically do it. And if you have the correct settings in here, the better the track. Okay, so after that is done, you can click over to 3D view. However, nothing has changed. Now, if you hit Alt-A, as you can see, still nothing has changed. And that is because you have to click on your camera, I might just change this back to 24 for now because I just noticed something weird. Oh no, it's still like that. Okay, well, what you have to do is you have to click on your camera and go to your constraints tab, and click camera solver. Now that will add these points into the thing, and if you hit Alt-A, as you can see, the camera moves. So if we view from that camera and hit N, background image, and we just hit add image, actually cancel, movie clip, click on our clip, and turn the opacity up. If we delete this cube, and then we play Alt-A, you can see that our camera is moving around our tracking points. If we select the one that's furthest out on my nose, which is this one, and we view from the top, actually, if I hit number pad 0, okay, as you can see, that one's the furthest out, and then the ones on my, on the left side of my face are further in. That's because that's the three-dimensional position, which the algorithm calculates, which it's a very accurate algorithm. But if we select this, if we hit A, select that, and Shift S cursor to selected, which I don't know if that worked. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Shift S okay, there it goes. Now, if we view from the camera, I can add, say, a plane, and if I scale this in, and say, place it onto my eye, view from the top, and bring that to where my eye would be, which is about there. Then if I position this again, actually, that, and then I can copy it and place it here. Now if I hit Alt-A, you can see that it's now tracked to my face. That's just a way that I just do that sometimes, just to see if the track works. Now also, if I play this, you may notice that it looks kind of like it's slipping and it's not that good. That's just because Blender sometimes goes slow in matching up the two. So once you, if you could use the, what's it called? The OpenGL render, which just will render whatever is in your 3D viewport out. It will it'll look really good. Okay, now how I actually made the thing that goes onto my face is I took a plane, I did Shift, I selected this, I did Shift S to select it, and I added a plane. Then I rotated it 90 degrees. Actually, I viewed from the front, and then I hit number pad 5, which brought me into orthographic view, and brought the image onto the background. And I actually went into edit mode and created a exact mask, you could call it, of my face. Just adding loop cuts and scaling it, selecting the pieces, extruding it, just doing that. And I spent a while doing that until I finally got it. But for the sake of this tutorial, I'm just going to switch over to the final thingy. Okay, so this is in, I believe, yeah, this is in orthographic. So if I select the layer, which, no, aha, okay. Now, if I view to this is, okay, so I guess I didn't spend that much time on it, but it matches up to my face. And as you can see, it's just a mask, and if I hit Alt-A, it doesn't move at all. However, the camera does move, and you can see this looks really bad, but if we add in our image, which for some reason it likes to disappear. Where did I put it? I think it's on the desktop. Yes. If I load in our image. Oh, this is a different. Oh yeah, I forgot actually. I originally had a different I had a different clip. The only reason for that was I had, here it is, done. I think that's what it is. There. Now, if I just turn up the opacity, okay, it should be set to movie clip. It's under Jack. Done. Okay. Now it's not working. Just give me a second to figure this out. Desktop. Let me try clip. Okay, there we go. Sorry about that, but as you can see, it is completely tracked to my face. And so to model it, as I explained, once you have it set up, just make the dimensions correct. I have smooth shading on for some reason, even though it's not being rendered. Just set it to flat, and I'll just save this. Escape. Okay. So it's just a very basic, I mean, it's not perfect, but the mouth, I also have, if you activate this, you see that the eyes match up correctly. Same with the mouth. And the reason that I made this is I also originally wanted to do like blood coming down, but I decided not to. I decided just to do something simpler. Yeah. Okay. So now for the wound. How I did it was, I originally had 2 wounds. One was up here, but I just stuck to one. Okay. So what I did is I took my face, or the mask, and I selected a few faces and copied them and then separated them from the mesh using Control P, and then I started editing it, and I extruded it inward, brought some of the faces together, added a subsurf, and then a displacement modifier with a clouds texture to bring this kind of wrinkly texture to it. And then I just did a dark velvety red color here, and a brown. Actually, I used the eyedropper tool and got a skin texture or skin color, and then I just exported this separately and I brought it into a program called Motion, where I composited it in with the original video and then color graded it just to add more effect. And if you see, that tracks to it. And yeah, you can add a few cool effects. I also tried to do a Voldemort nose, as you can see, but I'm horrible, and I mean horrible, at blending 3D and video. For some reason, I cannot figure out how to do it with Blender. However, I did get this one to match up pretty nicely. As you can, or I have to bring in my camera. Okay. Now, if you see, that's what it looks like. And then I went into the compositor and used an alpha over node, which if I connect, you can see my video. Oops. Oh, sometimes your video gets misplaced, like mine has. Well, clip, open, there. And then that will just add it in, which the reason why I did it separately is just so that I could add separate effects to it in the after process. And as you can see, the alpha over kind of screws up the lining. There's ways to fix it. I know that I did it somehow in my final, but that's basically how to do a face. If you want to request any tutorials, or have any comments, feedback, just email me howtoblender3d@gmail.com, and visit the website howtoblender3d.com. Thanks for watching. Bye.